The European settlement in the New World saw the Europeans bring not only their settlers and guns, but also their identity, language, way of life, religion, and disease. But in order to be able to spread their cultures, first they needed to find a place to spread their culture. What better place than the New World? One of the first Europeans to find the New World was Christopher Columbus, who, upon arrival in what is now known as the Dominican Republic, he took, plundered, killed, stole, took land, took what's yours, and took some more. Upon arriving back to Spain, he then told the Spanish about all these people that they could spread their cultures to. But the Spanish couldn't keep their mouths shut, and soon everyone wanted a piece of that American pie. The Spanish would settle around what is now known as the Caribbean and into Western South America, advancing through Central America all the way to Mexico, and then some. The French would then settle the colonies along the St. Lawrence River into eastern Canada and then the U.S. interior. It would be quite some time before the British arrived. They set up a colony in Roanoke, but it didn't quite seem to work out. By the time the British would once again arrive, the Dutch, Swedish, and even Latvians had colonies in the New World. So, the English had to do some big or stick diplomacy in order to get colonies. They expanded into the eastern United States and into the Hudson Bay, founding what is now collectively known as Rupert's Land. But there was a problem: the Ohio Valley. The Ohio Valley was an area of land that both the British and French claimed to be theirs, so you can imagine that this won't be problematic in the near future. With the new British colonies, they still needed to figure out what would be the economic structure of the colony. Most of the goods, such as tea and sugar, were imported from the mainland. Plus, the colonies did not have a sustainable workforce. So, the British decided that they would send indebted Scots and Irishmen to the colony, since slaves at the time were too expensive. There was even a time period in history where indentured servants claimed that the slaves had been treated better than them because slaves were more expensive. Those indentured Irishmen and Scots would often move to Virginia or New York, more favorably Virginia. Virginia had a near-perfect climate for farming and for plantations. For years, the farmers there would do regular farming. That was, until the slave trade. When the slave trade became popular in America, many indentured servants would buy slaves, and a hub for buying slaves was in New York City. The slave market would be in southern Manhattan, but was now referred to as Wall Street. They would buy and sell slaves there, and due to this, the plantation's profits skyrocketed. Virginia and the rest of the southern colonies in the south would have more slaves in the north due to the south's more favorable climate. These slaves were the backbone of the economy, but soon that economy would forever change. The following dispute over the Ohio Valley would mean war between the English and the French and Spanish. In Europe, you know it as the 7 Years' War. In America, you know it as the French and Indian War. The British won the war. The French gave the English all of their land in North America, but Britain was in debt from the war and turned to their colonies for compensation. They would tax and tax and tax the colonies until the colonies had enough and declared their own independent state. The British obviously did not support this, and bam! This was the start of the American Revolution. Tea throwing, city sacking, everything that you would want in a war. After the dust had settled, and after help from France and Spain, Britain lost, and America was not a country. Good job! But what happens now? Now that the nation was created, there were questions like, how would the country be run? Who would run the country? What powers will the people who control the country have? Luckily, all those questions will soon be answered. The new government will be Republican, led by a president who would serve 4 years a term. The president will be able to sign laws, but another entity such as Congress would have to approve those laws. And if the president, for instance, went around people with power, Congress would impeach him. But besides those textbook answers, the country mainly consisted of farmers and Revolutionary War veterans. Many of the farmers moved on to own large plantations in the South. The plantations will often have inhumane conditions for the slaves and indentured servants there, but mainly for the slaves, because just to be clear, none of these guys were not racist. The American economy was in standby, especially considering the fact that the English refused to trade with them, so this didn't help the economy one bit. Past the Appalachians were ripe, untouched land, full of natives, so after some big or sick diplomacy, the new land acquired from the Revolution were now ready for settlers. They would move in big rows, often full families would move there in the hopes thus to start up new jobs, find gold, and for some, to start new plantations. Because just to be clear, none of these guys were not racist. The Northwest Territory had now been created, and as it turns out, that land was not good to plantations because of the climate, so its statehood was delayed. Because once again, just to be clear, none of these guys were not racist.